did 12 years in the Army, joined in 99, just like a lot of guys did back then. And in the course of that, did three deployments, 2 to Iraq, 1 to Afghanistan, Afghanistan 09, October 3rd, Battle of Cop Keating. From there, we had a little bit of a hectic day that day, to say the least, but with the help of the 50 other Americans, the 2 Latvian soldiers, and 15-hour firefight after getting almost overran, pushed out. And for the actions of that day, I got, I don't know if it's nominated or recommended, but for the Medal of Honor, which is, again, something you don't ever wake up thinking you're going to try to achieve, go do. It just, I'll be honest, that day was one of the worst but yet best days of my life, because I got to see so much awesome shit from the guys to my left and right, so much love, and just so much just dedication for something more than yourself. So I might have got selected to wear it, but I'll tell you time and time again, it's for those, not for me. And I'm always humbled to kind of state that.
That's what I think you truly go above and beyond, and you exemplify what that means. Is you still to this day, even on the call, you were like, that's not, no. And it was your guys that told you, like, hey, like, hey, you did something. And you're like, no, man.
Well, I mean, what was really cool though, like the recommendation came not initially. The recommendation initially came because my commander put me in for a DSC. And at that time, like I said, we were Distinguished Service Cross. And at that time, we were 3 months into a 12-month deployment. And I remember just kind of looking at Stoney Portis and I'm like, hey, sir, we got 9 more months left. Let's get these boys home and worry about awards later. And we got through that next 9 months. I was so proud of those guys, because not a single guy from Red Platoon said this was too tough for me. I couldn't do it. They pulled up their big boy pants and they pushed through. I said, at first I was super embarrassed. Just blatantly honest, it was super embarrassing, because everyone's sitting there calling you a hero, saying, oh, what amazing things you did. And back in my mind, I'm sitting there, I'm like, didn't bring 8 guys back. Like, those dudes are the heroes. Like, I was a warrior, I was fighting alongside other great warriors. But to be called a hero and then all of a sudden have that be the center of attention just was super awkward to deal with and process.
That's something that I'd love to go back to a little bit, if we can kind of reverse back to where you were saying that you were watching that PowerPoint, government issued PowerPoint, and you were informed that that's what they put you in for. What was your reaction to it in the moment?
In the moment, I just shut down. I just, like, I turned everything off and just gotta sit there thinking, internalizing. It's just like, Mace isn't here, Gallegos isn't here, Kirk isn't here. Like, those dudes were freaking badasses. And they gave up more than anything I ever did. So why am I getting acknowledged? And that's just kind of what I gravitated back toward, was why, those guys literally gave up their life for me to be here. So why the hell am I getting the acknowledgement and the attention? Because I made it through. I got to come back home. I got to continue to live my life. And I know, the nation does need heroes and things to look up to, but as I continue to kind of gravitate back to, I still hate being called a hero, because for me, those are the guys that don't come home. Like, I was a warrior, and I'll tell you, like I said, it was bittersweet that day, because as nasty as things were, it was also one of the best days of my life, because I felt like I went through the most ultimate man test with some of the coolest guys I've ever been around, and we made it out on top. And that was also what I'd reflect back to. It's like, we used to talk kind of that last 9 months in country, the year getting out, when we would talk about the awards process and stuff like that, of guys getting silver stars and certain other guys talking about how cool or how badass they were that day. But the rest of us kind of like, were you though? And would sit there, and I remember, talking to Larson and Raz, and they're like, hey, yeah, we know what you did. Yeah, well, I know what you did. And like, that was just all we had to say sometimes, would be sitting there, Colorado Springs, hanging out, drinking at Hooters or something like that. You just kind of share those quick moments where you just look over at one of your buddies, and you just knew, I know what you did that day, and I don't need any public attention. There's no medal that you'd pin on our chest that would equate to what the same meaning was of that look between each other. So when that all, like I said, came to kind of the limelight, I wanted to just put my head in the sand and turn away. But I also realized I've also been given something that so many veterans never get. That's a platform, and that's the ability that when I, for whatever reasons, I keep going back to DC to go up on the Hill, I get doors open, and I get to go get in front of congressmen and senators, and it's like, hey, look, fucktards, here's that's, not getting taken care of for.
Please tell
for
me
veterans.
you use that exact language.
That's what goes on in the inner monologue.
Yeah.
Normally there's a filter process.
Well,
Sometimes.
I think more of them need the internal monologue to become the external monologue.
That is one of the hardest things to put into words for a general person. It's like not wanting to accept something because it is like, no, I did nothing for that. Especially you. You yourself is a very like selfless individual, and to have that where all the lights are on you, they fly you out, and then come to find out your battle buddies are the ones that also put in word for it, right?
But that was also part of the humbling thing, was to find out that the upgrade recommendation came from the guys that were actually there beside me. Like I said, it was very tough to accept it in the first place, but it was kind of really smoothed it over hearing that it was because of their recommendations, their firsthand accounts, that kind of kicked it up over the edge. I mean, I still sat back to this day, and I think, honestly, the two guys that deserved the medal from that battle was Hart, because when he left out the back of those barracks to try to go get Gallegos, that was the last time I'd ever see that dude. And unfortunately, with the awards process system, is you've got to have, especially for the Medal of Honor, you've got to have 2 living eyewitnesses that see you do what you did, and have to be able to read and write English to write that firsthand sworn statement account. And when Hart pushed up there to go get Mason, Larson, and them, when his Humvee got hit with that RPG, the only guy that survived that was Faulkner. But Faulkner came back, immediately got medevaced, came back to the States, and Faulkner was dealing with some demons prior to that deployment after getting shot in Iraq previous. And he ended up overdosing. So there was no eyewitness account, and it sucked because Hart, all we could get him was a Bronze Star that day.
No shit.
Just by Army regulation, since we didn't have those 2 eyewitness accounts, and I'd always kind of argued, him leaving out the back door, finding that 50 cal ammo, taking those guys over there, like that was the action right there. I said, I don't know how the whole awards process goes, but that was my kind of argument with it. And the other one, for sure, was Brad Larson. Larson, I truly believe, deserved the other Medal of Honor that day. He was stuck up at that Humvee with Gallegos and Mace and Ty Carter and Sergeant Martin. When those guys pushed out, he was trying to provide cover. Him and Ty were trying to provide cover for him. Wasn't able to do it. When Carter goes up and brings Mace, a little farther back to cover and puts the tourniquets on him, Larson's providing cover for Ty, and then him and Ty bring Mace back to the aid station. But then Larson comes back to me for the fight. Larson gets checked out, and he shows back up at the front gate area, and he's the one that tells us, hey, Griffin's just outside the door here. Last I seen Martin was here. Last I seen Gallegos was here. Have no idea where Hart was. And Larson then came back out in the fight, recovered Griffin, helped recover Martin, Gallegos, brought him back, and then when we couldn't find Hart's body, Larson was the dude that 3 times that day left his weapon, left his body armor, and left his Kevlar to run and do the frickin' bullet dance around that outpost to try and find Hart's body. And 3 times he just wasn't able to find him. And on the 4th time, I finally told him he couldn't. So that was the other thing that's always been in the back of my mind. It's like, me and Ty Carter's the other living recipient from that fight. But I've always looked at it. I've always thought that Larson and Hart should have been the 2 guys right there.